of breeders, handlers, different breeds, trainers, owners in this room. I've got a question for every one of you. How many of you, just raise your hand, believe that you have had a dog anytime in your career, that you're confident that 50 years from now, they're still going to be talking about that dog? Any got one, two, got a couple hands up. There's another one. Those are rare. Those animals are extremely rare, and I know that you know that, and they've got a place in your heart. This next dog, okay, should I wait until you're done?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I just want to know the rules here. So, when I, first dog we ever bought, short hair, was up in Washington, and my wife and I go up there, and there's a little pup, and we liked her, we bought her, and then we had to hear all about the dog. So the owner of the dog, the breeder, says, you know, this is the last puppy from the last surviving female from the von Thalberg line, and she's the last relative, direct going down descendant of Greif. And I didn't know who Greif was. But von Thalberg, I knew about that, because I'd heard that name before, and I said, is that Don Miner? And she says, yes. He was my prof in college, finance prof. And he'd get talking about his short hairs every now and then. I loved it when he did that. But anyhow, that's a side story. But he was finally, so then we got into the first field trial I ever went to. I started hearing this name, Greif. In the West, out here, I had Chris Goigan talking to him. He'd never heard of this dog. And so in those days, like now we travel, I go all over the country, and a lot of you do, I know, from campaigning dogs. In those days, they didn't do that. So you had the West Coast dogs, you had the East Coast dogs, kind of like that. And he was a household name on the West Coast, and that endured to when we first started the sport 50 years after he had passed. People were still talking about the Greif line. So with that in mind, I'd like to introduce Fred Rice. Fred is not a field trialer, he's a NAVDA guy, but he's an excellent bird man, and he's a historian. Karen Klein nominated him, and she couldn't make it. She and her husband couldn't make it here. So she talked to Fred, and Fred had interviewed her. He went around and did podcast interviews, historical dogs, historical German short-haired pointers that you would all know the name, and they're in, 3 or 4 of them are in here. And so he had an interest in making the presentation, doing some research. So I'm really happy that, Fred, you're here to take the honor of.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you doing that introduction, because I thought I'm going to walk up here and I'm going to be looking at all these folks who are field trialers, and you've been campaigning dogs, and you're going to wonder, who's this guy? And so I'm, like he said, I'm not a field trialer, but I have much respect and much gratitude for what you do. And I've been in the short hair game since the 80s. And so this dog is like the hero of the breed for me and many of my friends. I'm from the Midwest. So I represent thousands of people, I'll say, and I don't even think that's an exaggeration, who know who this dog is. He's in their pedigrees. They've heard the stories. And then, of course, all of his offspring and great offspring, people know the names. So I'm happy and honored to be able to tell this story the best of my ability, all right? I have one job to do, like the kicker on the football team, and that's to try to do my best to tell this dog's story in a few minutes and do it justice. All right, so I'm going to take a shot at that. If I miss something, Keith, I hope you'll back me up, okay? Because honestly, I can't believe that I get to do this. So let's start with, this great dog was born in 1947. And as he pointed out, here we are in 2026, still talking about this dog and pulling him into the Hall of Fame. He was the product of a breeding by a breeder in Austria. There's a picture of the gentleman and Greif's dam. She's pregnant in the photograph, so we're making an assumption that maybe she was pregnant with him. And the breeder's name was Victor von Rohringer. If I say that right, hopefully I said it right. Victor von Rohringer. And he was a good breeder, well-known breeder as far as he produced great quality dogs, but not volume. You know, he was just consistent, produced great dogs. And there was, and this region that he's in Austria is called Hundscheimerkogel, okay? So he didn't have a kennel name. Hundscheimerkogel was the name of the region the dog was born in. A U.S. soldier somehow got connected with this breeder and bought a dog from him, Greif. And then in 1949, came back to the United States. This soldier, we don't know his name. I think Karen told me that they actually have his name written down somewhere, but they can't find it. But this soldier returned to California. I think the base was Camp Ord. I don't know if that's an Army base, naval base. It's close to Monterey, California.
Army.
Is that Army?
Fort Ord.
Okay. So Fort Ord, apparently, back in those days, people bird hunted in California. Maybe they still do, but I don't hear a lot about it. But this young man campaigned his dog a little bit, I guess, bird hunting, and people saw the dog and thought, wow, that's a great dog. So the dog got bred a few times. This is a story that Karen shared with me. So then there's a group of 3 gentlemen that are famous people that are in the Hall of Fame here. That's John Merrill, that's Don Miner, Von Thalberg Kennel, and that's Bob Holcomb, who all of those guys have their own stories. But these 3 gentlemen hung out together, traveled together, and I guess they had gone down to California, to Bakersfield area, to dove hunt. And they saw some people out in a field, an alfalfa field, working these nice German short hairs, and they found out these dogs were out of a dog named Greif. And then I'm assuming they did some investigation, found out who owned the dog, and then from there they started promoting the breeding of this, you know, kind of relatively unknown dog, had no titles, you know, just an Austrian import, but they really loved the style, the intensity, the run, and they observed the genetic. They could tell this dog had some great genetics. So at some point, I'd say it must have been around 1950, was it Dave Hopkins? I believe it was Dave Hopkins purchased Greif from the soldier. And then that dog became his dog, and he had other dogs that he was campaigning with Stan Head. I'm assuming that's a name most people, or a lot of people in here that are short hair people that know about Stan Head. So Stan Head is running some of Dave Hopkins' dogs, but Greif is at home in the backyard. And Greif is like 5, 6 years old. Everybody loved Greif. Dave Hopkins' wife loved Greif. The problem was Greif, he liked to kill chickens. So Karen said that Dave Hopkins' wife said, look, you're going to send that dog to Stan Head and get him trained, because we ain't having him here killing chickens no more. So it was more or less just like, all right, make that wife happy. I'm going to send the dog off to a trainer, and we won't have any more dead chickens. And this is really a beautiful story because here this dog is 6 years old, an import from Germany, and not like, oh, it's going to be a champion field trial dog that we brought over here. Sends him to Stan Head. Stan Head comes back and says, dude, you got a heck of a dog here. Let's put some time and money into this dog and campaign this dog. So that's how his field trial career started at 6 years old. He finished his field champion title in 2 years. Much of the time he was running against some of his own offspring and winning. All right, so this dog ended up becoming a field champion at 8 years old. He's a pillar of the breed in the United States. There's to me, in my opinion, of course, there's two or three other dogs like him, but this dog, he's what the breed stands on today still, at least for the world that I live in, which, you know, I do a lot of NABDA stuff, and it's mostly bird hunting related stuff, but they're the kind of dogs we love. They got the stuff in them, they've got solid genetics, solid temperaments, and you look back at pedigrees and you go, yep, there's Greif and there's these other two dogs, and it's amazing to see. Some notable offspring, and then I'll wrap it up. Hopefully I've covered the bases pretty well. And like I said, I want to do this justice because of this story is such a great story, and really I want to make sure I mention again, Don Miner, John Merrill, Bob Holcomb, foundational people around that dog that promoted him and some of his offspring, and that includes his most famous would be von Thalberg's Fritz II. He was a son, and then there was another dog out of von Thalberg's Fritz, so von Thalberg's Seagrave Shane, and is he a Hall of Fame?
He's not.
All right. Then there's several others. There's
His son is.
His son.
Lancer D.
Okay.
Lancer D's son is Erlicher Abe.
Yeah, Ambertall's Lancer D is a great-grandson. Erlicher Abe is a great-great-grandson. There's Ambertall's Kit von Schembeck, which she had a brother named Blick von Schembeck. And those dogs are all very well known. I don't know if Blick's in the Hall of Fame or not, but all these dogs are very well known, famous dogs that are all from kind of the Northwest. And then finally, just a little summary of his production. Greif v. Hundscheimerkogel, and I always thought that was a kennel name, but that's just the name of a region in Austria. He produced 4 dual champions. He produced 12 field champions, 2 amateur field champions, 8 conformation champions, 1 NGSPA champion, and 2 of his offspring, direct offspring, are in the Hall of Fame. That's von Thalberg's Fritz and another dog named Oxton Brides Bruns von Greif. And then there's 10 titled grandchildren, and there were 3 grandchildren that are in the GSP CA Hall of Fame. Okay? So with that, again, I'll say that I'm really honored to be able to do this for the sake of this dog and the people around him. Thank you very much. We take a picture?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, I guess I'll get in the Hall of Fame one way or the other. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.